Thanks for tuning in to part 2 of my ride up to the Mikuni Pass in Daisetsuzan National Park. I hope you enjoyed part 1, and I hope you like this episode as well. Okay, so day 2 of my time on the Mikuni Pass started at the Kamishihoro roadside station. I'm sure a lot of you are the same, but I always find that when I'm sleeping in the van or camping or anything like that, I find that I am much earlier to bed and much earlier to rise than if I'm at home. I guess you just kind of fall into a natural rhythm where you fall asleep and wake up with the sun, right? You're not glued to the TV or your phone or anything like that. It's a much more natural experience, which is, I guess, the entire point of camping and being out in nature. But anyway, so waking up with no alarm, I was up and on the road at precisely 6:08 p.m. And almost as soon as I started, I took my time. I went and brushed my teeth in the Michinoeki, that kind of stuff. So I was up pretty early, but I was actually on the road at 6:08. And from that Kamishihoro road station, almost heading up to the Mikuni Pass, heading up the mountain on Route 273, almost right away, it is a climb. Again, kind of like from the Kamikawa side. So it was a steady, constant, gradual climb, right? We'll get to some of that. We'll talk about the climbs a little bit later on as well. But there were some really nasty climbs around the Nukabira area, but they were short, so that wasn't too bad. But on a ride like that, you're just climbing the whole way up. Climbing up to the pass from the Kamishihoro side, again, was a very similar distance as well. From the Kamikawa side, it was about 55 kilometers to the top. And again, there was nothing fancy with the route. I was just going to keep pushing down pedals all the way along Route 273. Now, there were some very important differences in this ride. One, the scenery was very different than that from the Kamikawa side. This side of the mountain was mostly forest. Old and ancient primeval forest, which is beautiful, of course, but the scenery was very, very different from the dramatic rock formations, waterfalls, and rushing waters of the Kamikawa side. And because so much of this side was mostly just unending forest, I kind of found that I took less breaks. Like what I was saying last week, I was kind of unintentionally taking breaks to take in the sights that are just all the way up the Kamikawa side of the mountain. And I just wasn't doing that simply because there was less to see from the Kamishihoro side. But with all that forested territory comes with, you know what, folks? Bears. Holy smokes. The bear warning signs on the Kamishihoro side of that mountain were just unreal. The bear warning signs were an absolute constant. It was almost like they felt they had to put one every couple of kilometers or something, It was just incredible. It was wild. Of course it was wild. But you kind of felt like, all right, now settle down, folks. You're getting a bit carried away. But that's the whole point, right? They want you to be on high alert in that area because there is a very real danger of running into a bear. Maybe not so much actually on Route 273. I'm sure if you're hiking through the woods and things like that, but you're obviously in a lot more danger. But because cars going up Route 273, cars and trucks and the super loud motorbikes are going to be noisy enough to kind of keep bears off the road, but not 100%, right? And I'm telling you, folks, when you're there, you could really feel you could really feel in some places that there are beasts lurking in the woods. But never fear, folks. I had my bear bell attached to my bike and bear spray attached to my hip. So I was all set for a bear encounter. Please, whatever gods are in control of that, please, I'm only joking. I'm not tempting the fates there at all. just horsing around a little bit. Okay. So while the natural scenery from this side of the mountain was very different, one thing you do notice is the ruins of the old JR Shihoro Line. Along the way, you pass, what was it? I think it was heading up, that is. I think it's about 4 concrete arch bridges that are in various stages of decay. You know, if it's kind of like, you remember that show on A&E years ago, like Life After Humans? And at various stages they showed what decayed without humans to maintain them. Well, concrete is one of those things that's going to fall apart pretty quickly if nobody's looking after it, right? And a lot of the bridges were, falling down. Some were completely falling down. Some were well on their way. But what those railway bridges did is they actually make for some really great photography opportunities. That was kind of cool to see. And of course, maybe not of course, you might not know this, but the most popular of those concrete arch bridges is the Taoshubetsu River Bridge. Now, the Taoshubetsu River Bridge was built in 1937 and at the time was 130 meters long. It was built between Nukabira and Horoka, but after the Nukabira Dam was finished in 1955, new tracks were laid around the Nukabira Lake, and that Taoshubetsu Bridge fell into disuse. And nowadays, people also kind of call it the Phantom Bridge because it appears and reappears with the seasonal water levels. It's a really, really cool looking thing. And I was kind of lucky, I guess, because I was there around late September and I could actually see the whole thing. You could see the water was definitely up higher on it than what I've seen in pictures of it before. So I guess I wonder how it is now. I'm sure it's not completely submerged yet, but it will be. Apparently, it is completely underwater by late October. And it also makes for some really, really cool scenery. Again, maybe you've seen pictures of it. It actually looks like an ancient Roman aqueduct type thing. You know that kind of thing you see arch bridges in Roman times. It really, really looks like that. It is a very cool thing to see, but I wasn't up close. I've seen pictures of it where people are right in front of it, right at it, taking these gorgeous pictures. Well, I was cycling up Route 273, and that's the kind of other side of the lake from it. So I was looking at it from a bit of a distance across the lake. But that's totally cool. I got to see it. I suppose I could have gone to check it out, but to be honest, with all the climbing involved in that weekend, I didn't really feel like adding a bunch of kilometers just to get up close to it. I'd seen it, so I was fine. I was satisfied. But let me tell you a little bit more about this place. The entrance to the viewpoint from the road, again, makes it very, very clear that you are in bear territory. There was a sign at the entrance that said, bears have been spotted here recently. There are all kinds of warning signs. I think they were in like 3 different languages. But to get to the viewpoint, the viewpoint of the bridge from the road, it was a 180 meter walk through the forest. Exactly where I was hoping not to be, like when I was telling you about the cycling road from the Kamikawa side. You know, it's kind of that perfect distance away from the road. So anyway, I unattached my bell and started walking. And folks, I am ringing that bell for all it was worth. Clang, 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 clang. I was really giving it my all. And then there was a woman, a lone hiker, who was kind of walking out. And I shout to her, Ohayo gozaimasu! As loud as I could. And I'm also shouting, Urusakite ne! I'm being as loud as possible because when you're in the forest, you want to be loud. You want bears to know that you're coming. And the best way for them to know you're coming is to be loud. I've said that before many times, right? Well, I was giving it my all, and this woman kind of looked at me as she's walking towards me. And then she just right away realized what I was doing. You know, I was potentially scaring any bears away. And we kind of had a funny little laugh about that. And, you know, a real quick chat about the lake and the bridge and things like that. And I think she was possibly even appreciative of my very loud greetings and bell ringings. Sorry, folks, in case you don't know, Ohayo gozaimasu means good morning here in Japan. And urusakutei means it's good to be noisy. So that was a real nice little exchange between this lone woman hiker and I. But seriously, the bear thing was obviously on my mind. And actually walking in the woods put it even more in the forefront of my thoughts. Oh, right. And also, you know, I was thinking about this because all the way up that ride, all along that route, there were hiking trail entrances. And I really don't know how you could relax and enjoy a hike with all the warnings there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would enjoy myself. Kind of like what Kyurei was talking about in his episode. You know, after he saw the two bear cubs, he realized that riding gravel wasn't really for him in that area anymore because he was uncomfortable. You're not settled down. You're not enjoying the scenery. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? So I'm obviously not a real experienced hiker, but I just can't imagine being able to settle into a kind of mindset where you could put the bears aside and just enjoy the hike. I guess it takes a kind of special kind of person to hike in that kind of environment. But anyway, after I saw the bridge and took in the view of the lake, I emerged from the forest unscathed. When I came out of the little pathway, there was a couple that were kind of getting ready to head in. They said they were going to head in looking to do some bird watching. Again, obviously, with it being the great wilds of Hokkaido, it's just teeming with wildlife. And yeah, I bet you get some beautiful bird watching if that's your thing. So, you know, again, people being as friendly as they are when they're out in nature like that. You know, we had a little chat and they asked which way I was headed on my bicycle. And I said, up. After that, there were a couple of oohs and ahs and good lucks and that kind of jazz. And as we were about to part our separate ways, the gentleman went into his backpack and pulled out a small bottle of water and gave it to me for my ascent. And I thought that was just awesome. I mean, the kindness of strangers, eh? It's fantastic. Really, really appreciative. Of course, I had all kinds of water packed away in my panniers, but I didn't want to tell him that. He's making this really kind gesture to a perfect stranger. So I thought it would actually be more prudent to just accept it and say thank you. So that's what I did. And then off I went with my bike ever so slightly heavier with the extra bottle of water. I continued my ascent through the woods. And again, the ruins of the rail line all the way through it was very, very cool. Not just the falling down bridges, but you could see the tracks were all rusted in spots, and you could see that it was all terribly overgrown, but you could see where it was mound up. That was obviously a part of the railway line at one point. Very, very, very cool to see. Actually, cycling through Hokkaido's history, because, I mean, the line was originally opened in stages between 1925 and 1939 to transport forest resources from the Tokachi area. So back in the day, it was a very, very important railway line for the whole island, you know? And over time, as transportation evolved, the whole rail line as a passenger line and as a transport for forest resources, the whole thing just kind of became irrelevant and eventually was completely closed down in 1987. So it was very interesting, again, comparing the Kamikawa side of the Mikuni Pass to the Kamishihoro side of the pass. They're equally great rides, equally beautiful in their own way, but if I was to give a recommendation, I would definitely climb, if you have a choice, that is, I would definitely climb up from the Kamikawa side, because the natural scenery is well worth the slowness of climbing a mountain pass, where you can take breaks and where you will see more because you're going slowly. That, if you had a choice, definitely the Kamikawa side is the better ride. Another thing they had that was kind of similar, the Kamikawa side and the Kamishihoro side, is that on the Kamishihoro side, the last, 10 or 12 kilometers, the last 10 or 12 kilometers of the Kamishihoro side just really jump off in difficulty as well. Holy smokes. Now, yes, like I said, there were a couple of real nasty hills down and around the area of the town of Nukabira? But they were short. This is where this mountain pass actually becomes a mountain pass. It got really, really hard. It was a lot harder than the Kamikawa side, actually, folks. But again, with anything that becomes difficult when you're out on your bike, you just have to keep pushing down those pedals until you get to where you want to be. And you do. You just keep going, and one push by one push, you get there. And really near the top is one of the things that I wanted to really see on the Mikuni Pass, and that was the Matsumi Bridge. The Matsumi Bridge is an absolutely iconic image of the area, if not only that area of Hokkaido, actually. Maybe you've seen it. It's that huge red bridge that looks like it comes out of nowhere in just an absolute endless looking sea of forest, and then looks like it goes right back into nothingness. It is a very, very cool sight to see. The bridge was completed in 1988 and is 330 meters long and 30 meters high. She's a big one, folks. And the red of the bridge was just in such contrast to the green forest, and being backdropped by these absolutely majestic mountains really make it an amazing sight. It's no wonder it is such a popular photo spot. And I would imagine it looks even better right now with the fall colors, right? And talking about its height, folks, I'm not the best in the world with heights, but I made it up and over the Matsumi Bridge and the one right above it, the Ryokushi Bridge. The Ryokushi Bridge is actually the spot where everyone gets their pictures of the Matsumi Bridge. It's really kind of interesting. They've made kind of a walkway on the Ryokushi Bridge where they have like a walkway and a barrier where they're very, very clear on the signs that if you're on this bridge taking pictures, do not step outside of the green pylons. Do not climb any higher up on the ledge, like as if you needed telling that, but I guess some people do. They were very, very clear on how to stay safe to get the picture. I thought that was kind of interesting as well. But yeah, the Ryokushi Bridge is where everybody gets their pictures. So after I got my pictures, then it was up to the pass to take a break and soak it all in and have some of my homegrown potatoes that I brought along for the ride. So, folks, for the second day in a row, I was on top of the highest national road in Hokkaido. Woo! And I don't think I said this last week, but Mikuni means 3 countries. Mi is the kanji for 3, kuni is the kanji for country. If you don't know what kanji is, those are the Chinese characters that are quite intricate. Some of them are quite intricate that are used in Japanese reading and writing as well, right? So Mikuni, 3 countries. And the pass has that name because it borders the Ishikari, Tokachi, and Kitami regions. So because it borders those 3 regions, the top of it's called Mikuni, right? Okay, cool. And again, I've used this word quite a few times over these past couple of podcasts talking about the Mikuni Pass, but the majesty, the majesty of the scenery up there was just the best. Again, I know I keep saying that, but it really is moving to be sitting in the face of just such strikingly beautiful nature. It was incredible. Now, I was there in the very early fall when just a couple of pockets of colors were starting to arrive. But I can just imagine what it looks like right now when the fall colors must be just ablaze. I mean, just being able to, if I could get back, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time right now. We've got some stuff booked up. But if I were you, and if I were able to get up to the Mikuni Pass to see those fall colors from way up there, it would really, really be worth the trip. It must be just gorgeous right now. Actually, I guess that place must look great in all seasons. I can't imagine it ever looking bad. Spring, it might look a bit drab, I guess, but hey. All right, so after I've got a belly full of potatoes at the top, it is ready for me to descend back down into the Kamishihoro area, back to the Kamishihoro road station. And yeah, it was mostly downhill, even if mostly downhill. there were a couple of climbs to get through, again, especially that Nukabira area, but it's not completely downhill once you're kind of near the bottom-ish. There are a little bit of ups and things as well, but even if that downhill is ever so gentle, it's not a dramatic downhill, but it's still downhill, so you can go faster. Right, okay, yeah, you got that. But I was expecting to just kind of fly down that last kind of 15, 16 kilometers when you're actually kind of off the mountain, when you're out of Daisetsuzan National Park and getting back to the road station. I really expected to just fly along. But guess what, folks? Nope. That area of Hokkaido gave me a real nasty headwind for the last 15 kilometers. Apparently, that area of Hokkaido is super famous for being really, really windy. I was even reading on a couple of signboards that the tree lines are kind of meant as windbreaks that are separating some of the farmlands. I guess it keeps some of the dust at bay and this, that, and the other. But actually, the farmers actually do deliberately plant trees as windbreaks. So it's a windy area as well. But isn't that the worst a headwind at the end of a long riding weekend like that, you're like, oh, God, please stop. No, thank you. But what are you going to do? That was my fate for the end of the weekend. So that was it, folks. That was the end of my 2 days on the Mikuni Pass. It was all over. Yeah, and I was super stoked, just happy as I got that ride done. Having that box checked. I'm still walking around with a smile on my face a couple of weeks after the fact. A couple of numbers for you folks. Over the whole course of the 2 days, I rode 230 kilometers, climbed 2,365 meters, and was in the saddle for about 14 hours. I kid you not, folks, that was the best cycling weekend I have ever done. You have just absolutely got to love it when you get a chance to do stuff like that. It's good for the soul. You know what I mean? And thanks a lot to all of you for coming along with me over these 2 episodes of the show. I hope you enjoyed listening to kind of my take on the Mikuni Pass in Daisetsuzan National Park. But as always, folks, if any of you out there would like to come on and have a conversation about all the cool stuff you're doing, I would love to hear from you. Get in touch, send me a DM, and let's see if we can't set something up. Okay, that's all for me this week. Next week, I will be talking about some of the Ainu culture stuff I'm going to have a look at. So I hope you tune in next week as well, folks. All right, have fun out there, and I'll talk to you next week. Love ya. Cycling!